And Michael came down the elevator. When he walked off the elevator, he looked up and he saw me, and he ran over and he jumped up in my arm and said, "Ronald, what are you doing here?" And the security guard who had just pushed me in the corner asked, "Who the heck is that?"
Ronald LaPread of the Commodores. Welcome to Planet Guitar.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How's Auckland today?
Right now it's beautiful. Right now it's beautiful. It'll rain or snow or something in another 2-3 hours.
You've been in New Zealand since 1986. What do you love about it?
Oh boy, we human beings are creatures of constants. You learn to like whatever it is you do. You take it as it is, and you adjust yourself. New Zealand's nice. It's clean. There's not so many people, but it's a long ways away. It's a long ways away. Yeah, but it's very nice, very quiet, very peaceful.
Ronald, I'd like to go back to your musical roots. I've read some very funny stories, and I'd like you to tell me if they're true or false.
Uh-oh.
The first one is you were paid to play keyboards when you couldn't play keyboards.
My mother was a beautician, and her partner had a son who had a band, who had booked a gig and said he had a full rhythm section. But he had drums, bass, guitar, and a singer, and he needed a keyboard player. So he heard me play the piano, something that I heard my younger sister playing, chopsticks or something like that. And he said, "Okay, you sit there and look as though you're the piano player, and I'll pay you." And I think I worked for 2 hours. I was 16 years old. I made $75, and I knew that music was my field after
that. And then I read that you said to Lionel Richie that you were the best bass player in the area when you couldn't play bass guitar. Is that true?
I was always in the right place at the right time, but I didn't have the skill. I played sousaphone in the high school marching band, and I then, after I joined that group, I learned to play piano a little bit. And Lionel Richie and Thomas McClary came to me. Their bass player was being drafted, and he was going to the Vietnam War. And they asked me if I knew where there was a bass player that they could get to put in their group. And I told him I am the best one. When Richie said, "Ron, I thought you played piano." I said, "No. My profession is bass." And they said, "Let's go to rehearsal Sunday." We went to marriage students' apartment at Tuskegee Institute. And when we got there, I thought they were going to give me some sheet music and say, "Read this, and this is what we're going to play." But they got there and they put the record on, and they say, "Okay, learn your part." I could do that. I had a very good ear, but then I had to go home and find the notes.
Right. And another story is that Lionel used to play saxophone, and he didn't really want to sing, but he was pushed up to the front. Is that right?
Commodores, when we started, we were the Jays, and when they started, I think I was the last member to get into the Commodores. But Lionel Richie played saxophone. William King played trumpet. They had another saxophonist, Jimmy Johnson, and the bass player was the lead singer. So we tried to get those people, and Richie didn't want to sing. We didn't want to be a band. we wanted to be a group. You know, we wanted to do a show. We wanted to have the entertainment right up on the people and right in front. And Lionel Richie was a sax player, and he stood in the center of the stage. He would sing one song per night, but Walter Orange was the singer. Lionel Richie didn't want to sing, and then he'd go back in the back and play with his sax. So we say, okay, we're going to start dancing. We're going to start performing. We're going to start entertaining. So Richie, you're in the center of the stage. You're the lead singer. He hated it. He hated it, yeah. But he got to be very good at it. He got to be very good at it.
Of course. But it all sounds like you were having a great time. You were just young and having a lot of fun.
Oh, we were young and full of ourselves. We didn't know anything about anything. All we knew was we wanted to try to make a record. And in Tuskegee, Alabama, no one had ever seen how you make a record. We heard Clarence Carter. We had Bobby Moore. There was who was that? Wilson Pickett. I mean, there was a lot of music around, but Tuskegee didn't have that. We had marching bands and we had things like that.
Do you remember your first bass guitar? What was the brand?
It was a Fender Precision 1962 model. As a matter of fact, I still got it.
Have you?
Yeah, I got it. But I'm not at home. I'm not near my studio so that I could show it to you. But Michael Jackson came to New Zealand, and my daughter wanted to get a signature from Michael Jackson. And I said, "Oh no, please don't make me do that. That's not that's not good." Michael, give me your Yeah, I said, no. We walked into the hotel. Security was lining everyone up against the wall. And being in New Zealand, I stood out like a fly in a glass of milk. You know, you couldn't miss it. And Michael came down the elevator. When he walked off the elevator, he looked up and he saw me, and he ran over and he jumped up in my arm and said, "Ronald, what are you doing here?" And the security guard who had just pushed me in the corner asked, "Who the heck is that?" He said, "Who is this that Michael Jackson's hugging and carrying on?" But Michael then turned and told everyone, said, "This is Ronald LaPread, the bass player for the Commodores. He plays, he sings, he dances, and he digs a hole in the side of his guitar while he's playing."
I understand that you had a Motown representative come to one of your gigs, and she told you that she'd like you to practice, but you didn't actually know that you were going to play with the Jackson 5 until right before you started. Is that right?
We were in New York with our manager, Benny Ashburn, and he had a friend who came to see the Commodores perform. And she came in and she said, "Oh yeah, okay. I got this group that I want y'all to go out with. We're gonna do some shows, and y'all get ready. You got 40 minutes on the stage, and you got to go on at time, and you got to get off at time." So we were working on the show, and we were getting it all. We went to Martha's Vineyard Island so that we couldn't be disturbed, and we rehearsed and we timed everything, and we did it 40 minutes to the second. We were on and off the stage. And the first gig was, I think, Rochester, New York, or something like that. And we had to drive up. It was snowing. Just as soon as we got to Rochester and found out where the auditorium was, we turned the corner and looked up and saw the Jackson 5, special guest, the Commodores. Shucks, we almost wrecked our van. We said, "Oh my goodness, how are we going to do this?" Yeah, it turned into we toured with them for 3-4 years. Everywhere they went, we went.
But I'm really intrigued why she didn't tell you, why this Motown representative didn't tell you beforehand that you were going to be playing with the Jackson 5.
She probably didn't want to scare the paint off of us. to work with Michael Jackson. I mean, I Want You Back, ABC, Ben, all of that was going on then. Shucks, that was probably the hardest job that we ever had, to try and open for the Jackson 5.
Sure, but you did it, and as you said, you spent 4 wonderful years with them touring. I read that Michael Jackson stole your ideas for his uniform from that time. Is that correct?
Well, I wouldn't say stole it. He adapted himself to it, because
Yeah.
Lionel Richie had a uniform just like his, and he thought it was nice. He came to the Madison Square Garden when we were getting ready to go on stage, and he walked into the dressing room, and Richie had his on. We all had the glitter uniforms, and Richie had his on, and it was just white. And I think he saw that and he liked that.
But
It went nicely with his glove.
were the Commodores riffing off the idea of the Navy captain idea with the uniforms? Is that what you were doing at the time?
We were thinking 14th century English army, with the glitter. It was really captains of the ship when sailing was the way that everyone traveled and everything. And we were the Commodore. We captain of the ship.
The leaders.
Yeah, that's the one.
You contributed a number of songs to the Commodores. What was your motivation to create and write songs at that time? What was your strongest motivation?
Whoa, probably the need to have a song ready for the album that we were going to do in about 16 months. That was really what started it. But once you start to writing, and you try and figure it out and try to work it out and do all of that, it gets to be a little bit strenuous. But when you look into yourself and you try to talk about what you do and how you feel and what you think, you'll be surprised at how many other people think and feel the same way.
Yeah. Is your motivation for writing songs now different to what it was when you were younger?
It is a little bit different. I guess I'm old school. I want to tell, if I talk about love, I want to tell a story about it, whether it's a good story or a sad story, or and it's more meaningful. More meaningful, because I'm a little older and I've had a couple of things to happen, and you go through a lot in life, and as you get older, you get wiser. The wisdom was wasted on old people.
But for example, I believe your daughter asked you to write a song for Dodger Cat.
She asked to give her some ideas for tracks for music. And I mean, very challenging, very challenging for me, because I'm a lot older than Doja Cat, and I don't think like that. But once I hear the music and I understand it, I think my talent was my ear. I could hear things, and I didn't have perfect pitch, but I would be one note above or one note below where the actual note was on the record. So I had a relative pitch. And James Carmichael told me, if you ever want to learn something, first you hum it. You hum it so that you can see the intervals between where it starts and where it ends and where it goes. And then you do that with your instrument. And I guess it just sunk in. That's the way I do always.
Uh-huh. It's interesting because the Commodores had various songwriters, and all of you had some success. But then the differences started to grow and the band splintered. Well, do you think you were victims of your own success in that sense?
It could have been that. It could have been that. But you know, sometimes your body, your whole person wants to change. You know, it wants to change, and when you try to fight it, then it causes a problem or a mental reaction to it. But you have to, anything that's going to be worth anything is going to always change.
You once said that you
Go
thought the
ahead.
glue in the band was thicker. As you'd been through hard times together, you thought you were stronger as a band. In those difficult moments, how have you dealt with it? What do you turn to? What did you turn to at that time?
I have to try. I always try and understand. If you got a sad story, you tell the sad story to someone, and then you listen to their story so that you can understand yours. You know, you'll see that it's not bad to them, but it's bad to you. Theirs is not bad to you, but it's bad to them. And you have to understand that different stroke for different folk, and
You
everything changes.
you always seem to have a cheery attitude towards things. I don't think you smashed up hotel rooms or took loads of drugs or threw televisions out of the window. How how did you keep calm?
Oh man, we were working. It was really, everything was time. You had enough time to sleep. You had enough time to eat. You had enough time to play. If you had time off. If you had time off, you were so tired from the things that you did for the previous 7 days until you couldn't do anything but sleep. And we were in the most unfortunate position where we were not very famous, but we were recognizable. And we went around the world 18, 20 times. But because we were who we couldn't go to every place we wanted to go. We couldn't do the things that we wanted to do. So we kind of stayed together as a group. And when it started to splinter, then I'm sure it took a lot of us by surprise. You know, it took a lot of us by surprise, but it started over there, over here. I think my biggest problem was when Motown said we need the Commodores to move to
California.
California. Yeah, they said we need the Commodores to move to California. And I thought that if you go to California, everyone's going to have their own set of friends. And all of their friends will be telling us, you don't need them. You're the one, you know, you're the one that everybody looks at. You're the one that they hear. You're the one that they do. And they do that. And then eventually someone will start believing it. What made the Commodores was the fact that all six of them had very strong ideas. And they had, it was healthy competition between each other. And that was the thing that I've never been anything but a group. You know, I've always been one of six people. I had to always consider what the other person was thinking or what they were saying or how many agreed and how many disagreed. I've always been that way, you know, kind of balanced. And we did that for each other. And when I'm sure that when Richie went by himself, his first his first contact with being on his own was scary, I'm sure, because he was accustomed to having five other people standing behind him with the same idea.
At one point, you flew to Zaire to watch Muhammad Ali and George Foreman fight in the Rumble in the Jungle. Did you meet them?
I had met Muhammad Ali before that. I had met him before that, but I think that young, dumb, and crazy, and they say there's going to be the Thriller in Manila and or the Rumble in the Jungle. You wanted to try and be there, you know. You wanted to try and be there, but Muhammad Ali in those days, uh, he was he was something. He was something else. He was a boxer, but he was more of a messiah for black folk, you know.
You played tennis with Arthur Ashe in Barry Gordy's house, and you also met Martin Luther King.
Oh yeah, I met Martin Luther King in Tuskegee, Alabama. He was working with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and the president of that committee was my next door neighbor. So I mean, I met him when I was a very young guy, very very young guy. Yeah,
Do you,
lucky me.
do you consider yourself an activist?
Activist? No, I just believe in being fair. You know, I believe in being fair. I believe in you can't judge all the books by one color. You can't judge all the books by one author. You know, you must get to know, you must understand, you must do that. Uh, 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 a lot of black people now, my age, I was never a slave. My kids were never slaves. So it is really it is really up to them to excite themselves. I mean, I don't like what happens to any race of people. If it's unfair and unjust, I don't like it. But what can I do with it? I can try to. If I see somebody, I can tell them. If I hear somebody and talk to them, I can share it with them. But it's hard to reach everybody.
Sure.
It's
What, what,
hard to. Yeah.
what do you think that King would make of the Black Lives Matter movement in America today?
I'm sure he would have been proud, but to see all around the world that everyone understands that there's something being done wrong, that's an eye opener, you know? That's an eye opener. Everyone knows it, but when they see it and now everyone is speaking up about it, I'm sure there will be a change.
After Lionel Richie left the Commodores, you had a top 10 hit with Night Shift, and there was a tribute to your great friends Marvin Gaye and Jackie Wilson. How do you feel when you hear the song now?
Yeah. I stick my chest out because when I first heard the song, it hit me as something special. And when I hear it now, 35, 40 years later, I think that I could pat myself on the back. I didn't think too wrongly about it.
To close, I'd like to recite a few lyrics of a song. Do what you want to do.
Okay.
Do what you want to do. So much in life to see you through. Be what you want to be. How do you feel when you hear those lyrics?
I feel like I was lucky to know Lionel Richie when he was a young man. I told him at the time that he wrote Just to Be Close to You. When he wrote Just to Be Close to You, I walked up to him and I told him, I said, hey man, I said, no, you didn't want to be the lead singer. I said, but I think you're pretty talented. And he looked at me and said, oh, Fred. He said, oh, Fred, you think so, man? And then he came up with Sweet Love. He came up with Jesus' Love. And he came up with Heroes. When you listen to the words to those songs, he was more of an activist than anybody I know.
Ronald LaPread, it's been a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.